The Bible says an eye for an eye, but I would rather them have to sit in prison until they die.
1 year after a Mississippi man's murder, his former girlfriend and her parents are arrested in connection with his death. His grieving mother now speaking out to Law&Crime.
I do not wish this on nobody.
On December 2nd, 2022, the body of 36-year-old Kirby Carpenter was found outside of his home in Tippah County, Mississippi. Investigators later determined he'd been shot and killed days earlier on November 30th. Carpenter's mother, Mattie Jones, says it was Caitlin Spence who first told her something was off. Spence, Carpenter's one-time girlfriend and the mother of his daughter, would later be arrested and charged in his death.
So she called me. I was helping out at this little store. She called me and she said she first led me to believe that Kirby hadn't came home overnight. And the more I talked to her, she ended up telling me that he hadn't been home actually for 2 days. Well, of course, I got really scared because that's not like Kirby. Like I said, he had his rituals, the way he done things, and I knew he was going to be in his bed at night, and he was going to wake up in his bed in the morning. So I told her, I said, I'm going to put an APB out on him, and so she said, well, wait and let me walk up to the deer stand and check on him, check to see if he's up there. I said, well, he's not been up there for 2 days, but I told her to call me as soon as she got there, but she didn't. She called me a few minutes later, which she said that she didn't see him. And then all of a sudden she said, Kirby, 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 just like that. And I said, what is going on? And I guess she cut me off. I don't know what happened, but I just took off to the house. I called my husband on the way and I told him, I said, get to Kirby's house. And that's all I could say over and over was just get to Kirby's, get to Kirby's, get to Kirby's. And as he got there, he said that he pulled in and he didn't see or hear nothing. And he took off running. Once he got to the garage, he heard, she started hollering. And he ran over there, and that's when he seen him. Well, then our school resource officer, because the school is like a mile away from his home, he had gotten there before the other law had got there, and I pulled in right behind him. And I took off running as soon as I got out of the vehicle, and of course, that's when I seen him. And it was devastating. It's something that I live with every day, every morning, every night, 24/7. It's always on my mind. It's never off. It was a day that no mother should ever have to go through.
Jones says there was a unique dynamic between her son, Caitlin Spence, and Spence's parents, Jeffrey and Karen.
So the baby, they had been going together about almost 3 years, not quite. The baby was born in July, and yes, she was staying there. And the mom and dad had came down from Virginia they were going to spend a couple of weeks and help her after the baby was born. And so they did. They spent a couple of weeks, but they also spent 4 months. They never left. I know that Kirby and her both were probably tired of them being there, which I know they were. But it's just like they came and they didn't leave.
Leading up to her son's murder, Jones says everything seemed normal.
Leading up to Kirby's death, were there any red flags, any signs, any fighting between Caitlin and Kirby?
No. No, there was none. Even when the investigators went through his phone and everything, there was no arguing right then. No. Not around any of that time, no.
Because of this, Jones says initially she didn't have any suspicions about Spence's involvement. But as the investigation progressed, her relationship with Spence changed.
The first few days, our crime lab was so backed up of course, it took them. We found him December the 2nd. He was actually killed on November the 30th, and our crime lab was so far behind. He had to be at the funeral home for quite a few days. We ended up not having his funeral actually until the 17th of December. Um, they just that night she was going to stay down there, and I told her, no, you're going to the house. You know, what if whoever done this comes back? She said, I'll be all right here. I was, no, you're going home. You're going with us. So she come up to my house and stayed that night. But the next morning she was up early and she was ready to go back down there just as soon as she got up. And I'm like, you do not need to go down there by yourself. Somebody's going to go with you. She said, no, my parents will be there in just a little bit. So she went on down there. And it seems that it was like she was not worried about anything. There was never a tear shed from her. Um, she would tell us she was sorry, that this has happened. And she would hug us and tell us she loved us and all that. And her family gets there that day, which was on a Saturday. Um, and of course, they never leave again. And they stayed until they ended up leaving on the 20th of December, along with a lot of things out of Kirby's home.
But Jones says immediately after her son's death, Spence made some shocking decisions regarding his estate.
One thing was they started changing the locks on the doors. They changed the locks on the all of Kirby's safes. He had a room that was full of safes that he kept his gold and silver in, and guns and everything that that he collected. And all of a sudden I could get in them. I was the only one on this earth that had the combination to his safes, and I got in them on that Friday night to let the law take pictures, and I got in them on that Saturday, and then on that Sunday we went back down there, and I was going to get in them because he had always told us that his final wishes would be in Towns' safe. So we went to Towns' safe, and I couldn't get in. Um, there was only one safe that the combination wasn't changed on, and it was because she couldn't change it on that. She worked for TSC, so she knew, I think, how to take care of those kind of things. Uh, so I could not get in there on Sunday. And then I noticed that there was tire prints that were up to the back door, and I asked her dad. I said, "What? Who's backed up to the back door?" So I got to looking, and sure enough, I could tell that there had been some things taken out of there. Um, he did not admit it at all. He didn't know anything about the safes. They were the only ones there, but he kept saying he didn't know what I was talking about. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about. And him knowing that I was in the safes the day before and I couldn't get in them that day. So that really threw up a red flag. That was on Sunday after we had found Kirby on Friday.
Right away, Jones says she went to police with these so called red flags.
Yes, I did. I did tell them everything, that seemed off to me, uh, and which they were already, I think they were ahead of me, actually. I think they were really ahead of me. Of course, they were used to things like this. I'm not. Um, yes, that's when they started really, cracking down, watching what was going on, trying to ask questions. And that Monday, she went and got a very high powered lawyer that's from around here for Reese. And everybody knows that you only get for Reese if you're guilty of something.
But for nearly a year, no arrests were made in Carpenter's death. During this time, Jones says her relationship with Caitlin Spence and her family became even more strained.
For about a month or two after they left on the 20th of December, we could text her or whatever and ask for to see a picture of Nola, or ask how she was or whatever, and she would talk to us. Then all of a sudden, she just quit. So As of the last several months, no, we have had no contact. We have text. We even on Enola's birthday, we text. We tried to get pictures of her. We wanted to know how she was doing. She wouldn't. She never would contact us back at any time.
A year after Carpenter's death on November 30th, U.S. Marshals arrested Caitlin Spence in Pennsylvania. Her parents, Karen and Jeffrey, were also arrested in Virginia. All three face capital murder charges. Jones says she was emotionally charged hearing this news.
I think we were like ecstatic. We were looking at, not celebrating, but joining together on the day that it had happened, the family. And we were going to shoot some fireworks because that was Kirby's thing. Every time everybody got together, he was he loved to shoot fireworks. So we were going to do that in honor of him. Uh, and I got a phone call from one of the investigators, and all he told me was, I need to touch base with you. If can you come by here sometime today? And I said, yes, sir. I've got to come to Ripley in just a little bit. So I did. I went there, and I went in there, and he took me into a room back there, and he just opened his phone up and showed me a picture, and it was Jeff, and he was standing there in handcuffs, and then showed me a picture of Karen in handcuffs, and my knees hit the floor. I was like, I was hollering. I was thanking God. I don't know. To tell you the truth, I don't know what all I did. Um, we were just so happy because we knew without a shadow of a doubt who's done this. Now everybody knows. We're not accusing nobody during the meantime. We're trying to find out who did it, but in our hearts and in our souls, we knew who had done it. But now the world knows.
Jones believes Spence was incentivized by her son's bank account.
What do you think was the motive in this case?
What my son had worked for all his life, I think, was the motive in this case. They stole a lot of things from the house, including gold and silver. Um, they took a lot of things from the house.
From here, Jones says she's trying to gain custody of Carpenter's daughter, Enola.
Yes, we are praying. Praying very hard. Yes, I am in the process, and yes, I am going to do everything I can to get Kirby's baby home and teach her the right kind of way to live. Um, I can't imagine monsters raising my baby. The monsters took my son. Of course, they are going to be in jail. They're going to be in jail for a long, long time. But Enola should be here with her family that loves her. She should be here with her brother that loves her. He has not got to see her since then. And, he does ask about his baby sister. And he's a very smart 5-year old. Very, very smart 5-year old. You don't get anything past him. She should be here. Yes, we are going to do everything in our power to get her home. Well, no, as far as we know, no, she is not in Child Protective Services. Our understanding is she is with a cousin of Caitlin's, a male cousin of Caitlin's, which they said was a nephew to Jeff, the dad, Jeff Spence. That's what we've been told, but we don't know that for sure.
And I know that there are several different states involved here. I mean, Pennsylvania, then there's Virginia. So do you even know what state Enola's in at this time?
For positive, no, we do not.
If and when Jones does gain custody of Enola, she says explaining Carpenter's death will be difficult.
How do you deal with explaining to her what happened? I mean, making sure that Kirby's memory is alive, she knows about her father, sees photos and videos perhaps, but at the same time, learn about what her mother has done.
So that is going to be very touchy. I don't really know exactly how we're going to do that. We're going to raise her to know her dad. We're going to let her know how happy he was to have her. We're going to let her know how much he loved her. We're going to let her know what kind of man her daddy was. We want her to be proud of the man that was her dad. As far as being able to tell her what happened, that's probably can't even be answered now. It'll be a long time down the road.
As for the crime itself, Jones still struggles wrapping her mind around the details.
What's interesting to me about this case is that you have a female defendant who committed this crime, but then also her two parents who are arrested in connection with the same crime. You're a mother, you're a parent. How do you feel about that? That these two parents worked alongside their daughter, allegedly, to murder your son?
Well, that's a hard question. That is a hard question. Um, I cannot comprehend it simply because I don't have that kind of evil in my heart. I don't understand how it could even happen, much less a mother and daddy and daughter with a brand new granddaughter. Take that child's daddy away from her. If you love the child, you're not going to do that to that baby.
As for a punishment, Jones already knows how she wants justice to be served.
In the state of Mississippi, the capital murder charge does carry the death penalty. I myself, the Bible says an eye for an eye. But I would rather them have to sit in prison until they die.
In the end, Jones says she wants to tell the story of her son's life.
I love talking about my son. He was a big light in our lives, and he's still shining.
The Justice for Kirby Facebook page, with more than 13,000 likes and 17,000 followers, shares posts and memories about Carpenter's life. It's a way to keep his memory alive, something Jones says she will do for both Enola and Carpenter's older son, Towns.
Oh, Kirby. Kirby was great. He was a great guy. He was always happy. He was a hard worker. He was a risk taker, entrepreneur. He was like a jack of all trades and a many of all. He was good at all of them. He loved his family. He loved his friends. Most of all, he was in love with his two little kids. Everything he done for them. He always would say, "Well, look what I got for Towns," or "Look what I've got to put up for him," or things like that. He was good with people. He met people anywhere he went. He always left with another friend. He was just great all over, as far as meeting people, being good to people. I've had people to tell me since all this tragedy has happened that they've been in the service station or something. They were running low on money, and he's paid for their gas, fill their tank up with gas, or they would go to a restaurant or something and go to pay for their food, and somebody would tell them, Kirby's already paid for it. And he was always good about stuff like that.
After her arrest, Caitlin Spence was extradited back to Mississippi, but so far, her parents have not been sent back. Reporting for Law&Crime Network, I'm Gillespie.